The mafia boss lined up 5 of the city's wealthiest and most powerful women, then asked his son, "Choose your new mother." But everyone froze in shock when the little boy walked past them all and pointed at the poor janitor cleaning the floor. Thank you for joining this emotional journey of forbidden love and unexpected family. If you enjoy this story of a powerful mafia boss, his precious son, and the humble woman who changes everything, please like this video and leave a comment telling me what you think will happen next. Your support means the world. Now let's begin. The Venetian Grand Ballroom glittered like a jewel box under crystal chandeliers, each facet reflecting the wealth and power gathered within its walls. Dante Moretti stood at the center of it all, a king surveying his empire, though the crown he wore was invisible to most. At 32, he commanded the city's underground with the kind of quiet authority that made grown men sweat and politicians return his calls within minutes. Tonight, however, he wasn't thinking about territory disputes or family business. Tonight was about his son. "Daddy, my tie feels funny." 5-year-old Luca tugged at the small bow tie around his neck, his dark eyes, so much like his father's, looking up with complete trust. Dante knelt down, his $2,000 suit creasing without concern as he adjusted the tie with surprisingly gentle fingers. "Better, Piccolo?" "Better." Luca nodded, then whispered, "Are they all here to meet me?" "They're here because I asked them to be," Dante said carefully. He'd orchestrated many complex operations in his life, but nothing quite like this. 5 women from the city's most influential families stood across the room, each one carefully vetted, each one perfectly qualified to become the wife of the Don and mother to his heir. It had been 2 years since Marina's death. 2 years of Luca asking why he didn't have a mama like the other kids at his private school. 2 years of Dante lying alone in a bed too big for one person, his heart carefully locked away where it couldn't be hurt again. His consigliere, Frank Romano, approached with his usual measured stride. "The ladies are ready whenever you are, boss. Though I gotta say, this is the most unconventional selection process I've witnessed in 30 years. Marina always said our son had good instincts," Dante replied, his voice dropping to that dangerous quiet that made people nervous. "Better than mine, apparently. So let him choose." The room fell silent as Dante stood, his presence commanding attention without a single word. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with the kind of sharp features that could have graced magazine covers if he'd chosen a different path. Instead, those features had become synonymous with power and barely concealed danger throughout the city. "Thank you all for coming," his voice carried across the ballroom with natural authority. "My son Luca will now meet each of you." What followed was choreographed with the precision of a military operation. Each woman approached, spoke with Luca, offered smiles that ranged from genuine warmth to calculated charm. Dante watched his son's reactions carefully, the polite nods, the shy smiles, the way he gripped his father's hand a little tighter with each introduction. Victoria Castellano, heiress to a shipping empire, brought expensive toys. Luca thanked her politely. Isabella Romano, Frank's niece and a successful corporate lawyer, spoke to him about books and learning. Luca listened respectfully. Sofia Greco, daughter of the city's most prominent real estate developer, promised trips to Disneyland. Luca smiled but said nothing. Elena Vitale, an art gallery owner with connections throughout Europe, showed him pictures of beautiful places. Luca looked but didn't touch. Gabriela Santos, a philanthropist whose family controlled half the city's construction contracts, offered to teach him piano. Luca nodded politely. Each interaction was pleasant, appropriate, exactly what Dante had expected. And yet, his son's hand remained firmly in his, small fingers gripping like a lifeline. Near the service entrance, almost invisible against the marble walls, Emma Chen moved quietly with her cleaning cart. At 26, she'd perfected the art of being unseen, a necessity when you cleaned the spaces where powerful people gathered. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical bun, her uniform simple and neat, her presence so unobtrusive that conversations continued as if she weren't there. She'd been working this event for 3 hours, arriving early to prepare the ballroom, staying late to manage the inevitable mess that came with gatherings of the elite. The pay was good, better than her usual office building contracts, and she needed every dollar. Her 7-year-old sister Lily had a field trip coming up, and the school supplies list seemed to grow longer every year. Emma was wiping down a table near the floor-to-ceiling windows when she heard the small voice. "Miss, you dropped something." She turned to find a little boy holding out one of her cleaning cloths, his serious expression making him look older than his years. Recognition hit her like a physical force, those eyes, that face. The shopping mall, 6 months ago, the men in dark suits surrounding a terrified child while shoppers scattered. Her heart had made the decision before her brain caught up that day. She'd grabbed the boy's hand and run, using service corridors she knew from her weekend cleaning shifts, hiding in a storage room until the danger passed. She'd returned him to a frantic nanny outside the mall, refusing the reward offered, disappearing before questions could be asked. "Thank you," Emma said softly, taking the cloth. She glanced toward the center of the room where the boy had come from, catching sight of the man everyone whispered about, Dante Moretti. The name made people cross the street. The Don, the underground king, this was his son. Luca didn't return to his father. Instead, he tilted his head, studying her with an intensity that seemed beyond his years. "You're the angel lady," Emma's breath caught. "I'm just a cleaner, sweetheart." "No," Luca said with absolute certainty. "You saved me. You're my angel." Before Emma could respond, the boy turned and ran back to his father. She watched, frozen, as Luca tugged on Dante's sleeve, whispering urgently. The Don's head turned, his gaze sweeping the room until it landed on her. Even from across the ballroom, the intensity of those eyes made her breath catch. "Dark, assessing, dangerous." She forced herself to look away, to focus on her cleaning, to remember her place in this world of crystal and power. "Daddy," Luca's voice carried in the suddenly quiet room. "I choose her." The silence that followed was absolute. Emma's hands stilled on the table she was wiping. This couldn't be happening. She was hearing things. She had to be. "Luca," Dante's voice was patient but firm. "These are the ladies." "I choose the angel lady," Luca interrupted, pointing directly at Emma. "The one who saved me." Every eye in the ballroom turned to her. Emma felt her face flush, her heart pounding so hard she was certain everyone could hear it. The 5 wealthy women stared with expressions ranging from confusion to outrage. The security personnel shifted, hands moving toward weapons that were always present but never discussed. Dante Moretti walked toward her, each step measured and purposeful. The crowd parted like water, creating a path for him. Emma couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't do anything but stand there as the most dangerous man in the city approached. Up close, he was even more imposing. Tall enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes, broad-shouldered in a suit that probably cost more than her yearly rent, with features that were almost too perfect except for the thin scar above his left eyebrow, and the hardness in his gaze that spoke of violence. Witnessed and committed, "You saved my son." It wasn't a question. Emma's voice came out steadier than she expected. "I helped a scared little boy. Anyone would have done the same." "But they didn't," Dante said quietly, dangerously. "You did. 6 months ago, outside the Riverside Mall. You disappeared before my people could thank you." "I don't need thanks for doing the right thing." Something flickered in his eyes, surprise perhaps, or respect. "What's your name?" "Emma Chen." "Emma," he repeated, and somehow her name sounded different in his voice, weighted with implications she couldn't begin to understand. "My son has made his choice." "Mr. Moretti," Emma said quickly, "this is clearly a misunderstanding. I'm just the cleaning staff. Those women—" She gestured toward the 5 beautifully dressed, perfectly coiffed candidates. "They're what you're looking for. What your son needs." "My son," Dante said, each word precise and final, "has chosen you." Behind him, Luca smiled with the pure joy of a child who'd just solved a complicated puzzle. Emma looked at that smile, at the hope shining in those young eyes, and felt her carefully constructed walls begin to crack. This was impossible. Insane. She cleaned floors for a living. She wore second-hand clothes and counted pennies to make rent. She had a little sister depending on her and no room in her life for complications. Especially not complications that came with bodyguards and dangerous reputations. "I need to finish my work," Emma managed, taking a step back. "I'm sure once you explain to him, I don't break promises to my son," Dante interrupted. "And I certainly don't tell him his instincts are wrong." He paused, studying her with those impossibly dark eyes. "Frank, clear the room. Everyone except Ms. Chen." The efficiency with which the order was executed would have been impressive if it weren't so terrifying. Within minutes, the ballroom was empty except for Emma, Dante, Luca, and 2 silent bodyguards positioned at the exits. "Sit." Dante gestured to one of the elegant chairs arranged near the windows. "Mr. Moretti." "Dante," he corrected. "If you're going to be my son's mother, we should probably use first names." "I'm not. This isn't." Emma struggled to find words that didn't sound hysterical. "You can't just decide something like this." "I didn't." "He did." Dante nodded toward Luca, who'd climbed into the chair next to the one he'd indicated for Emma. Swinging his small legs happily, Emma looked at the boy, at his innocent hope, and felt something in her chest tighten. She knew what it was like to grow up without parents. She'd been 17 when the car accident took hers, left alone to raise Lily when she herself was barely more than a child. Against every instinct for self-preservation, Emma sat. "Tell me about the mall," Dante said, lowering himself into the chair across from her with the grace of a predator settling before a hunt. Emma swallowed hard. "I was finishing my shift when I saw 3 men cornering him near the food court. The nanny was on the ground. I think they'd pushed her." Luca looked terrified. "So I grabbed his hand and ran." "Where did you go?" "Service corridors, storage rooms, places the cleaning staff know. I kept him safe until I heard the announcement that his family was looking for him. I brought him to the main entrance where the nanny was waiting." "You didn't stay for a reward." "I didn't save him for a reward," Emma said firmly. "He was scared. I helped. That's all." Dante leaned back, his gaze never leaving her face. "Do you know who I am, Emma?" "Everyone knows who you are," she replied carefully. "And yet you're sitting here arguing with me instead of agreeing to whatever I say. Should I be afraid?" "Everyone else is." He echoed words she'd heard whispered in hallways and break rooms. The legend of the man who controlled the city from shadows and boardrooms alike. "Then maybe everyone else doesn't see past the title to the father who loves his son," Emma said quietly. The silence that followed was different, charged with something she couldn't name. One of the bodyguards shifted slightly, surprised by her boldness. Luca giggled, delighted. Dante Moretti smiled. It was small, barely a curve of lips, but it transformed his face from dangerous to devastating. "My son has excellent instincts indeed." Emma didn't sleep that night. How could she, after Dante Moretti had given her his private number and told her he'd send a car in the morning to discuss arrangements? She tried to refuse, tried to explain that this was insane, but he'd simply looked at her with those impossibly dark eyes and said, "My son chose you." I don't take that lightly. Now, sitting in her tiny kitchen while Lily ate cereal before school, Emma felt the weight of reality crushing down. The apartment was clean but worn, the furniture second-hand but comfortable, the walls thin enough that she could hear Mrs. Patterson's television next door. This was her world. Small, safe, predictable. Dante Moretti's world was something else entirely. "Emmy, you're burning the toast," Lily pointed out, wrinkling her nose. Emma jumped, yanking the smoking bread from the toaster. "Sorry, sweetheart, distracted." "About what?" "How did you explain to a 7-year-old that a mafia boss wanted you to become his son's mother?" "Just work stuff. Nothing important." Lily gave her that look, the one that said she knew Emma was lying but would let it slide for now. At 7, her little sister was already too perceptive, too used to reading Emma's moods to know when money was tight or stress was high. The black SUV arrived at 9:30, exactly as Dante had said it would. Emma had dropped Lily at school, returned home to change into her best dress, a simple navy blue that she wore to job interviews, and was attempting to calm her racing heart when the knock came. The driver was polite, professional, and completely silent during the 20-minute drive to a part of the city Emma rarely visited. Old money lived here, in brownstones with historical markers and trees that had witnessed a century of secrets. The Moretti residence was understated on the outside, elegant brick, wrought iron details, nothing ostentatious, but Emma knew better than to judge power by its packaging. The two men flanking the entrance, their jackets cut to conceal but not hide what lay beneath, told a different story, Ms. Chen. One of them nodded, opening the door without her having to knock. Inside was a revelation. High ceilings, original hardwood floors, artwork that belonged in museums. But what struck Emma most was that it felt lived in. Toys in a basket near the fireplace, a child's drawing on the refrigerator, visible through the open kitchen door, a pair of small sneakers by the stairs. "Emma," Dante's voice came from above. She looked up to find him descending the staircase, dressed more casually than last night in black slacks and a charcoal sweater that did nothing to diminish his commanding presence. "Thank you for coming. Did I have a choice?" That small smile again. "There's always a choice. You made one 6 months ago. I'm hoping you'll make another one today." He led her to a study lined with books, windows overlooking a garden where Luca played under the watchful eye of a stern-looking woman Emma assumed was the nanny. The boy waved enthusiastically when he spotted her. "Coffee?" Dante offered, gesturing to a silver service already prepared. "Just answers," Emma said, remaining standing even when he settled into the leather chair behind his desk. "Direct. I appreciate that." Dante steepled his fingers. "What do you want to know?" "Why me, really? You could have any woman in this city. Women with the right background, the right connections, women who understand your world." "My world," Dante repeated softly, dangerously. "You mean my family's business? The empire built on fear and influence, the organization that makes politicians nervous and rivals disappear." Emma's throat went dry, but she held his gaze. "Yes, I won't lie to you, Emma. I won't pretend I'm something I'm not. My family controls territory in this city that isn't measured in real estate deeds. I've made decisions that kept me up at night. I've dealt with rivals in ways that would horrify you." "Then why would you want someone like me anywhere near your son?" Dante stood, moving to the window to watch Luca play. 2 years ago, my wife Marina died. Car accident, or that's what the official report said." He paused, his jaw tightening. "She was the daughter of the Calabrian Don, our marriage and alliance between families. But she was also kind, gentle, and the best mother Luca could have asked for." "I'm sorry," Emma said softly. "After she died, I buried myself in business. Luca had his nanny, his school, everything money could provide. But he was missing something I couldn't give him. Softness, warmth, the kind of love that isn't about protection or duty but pure affection." Dante turned to face her. "Then 6 months ago, someone tried to take my son. A rival family making a move, testing our defenses." Emma remembered the fear in Luca's eyes, the way he'd gripped her hand. "My entire organization mobilized. We had 50 people searching the mall within minutes. And do you know who found him? Who kept him safe?" Dante's gaze was intense. "A cleaning lady who had nothing to gain and everything to lose. You didn't know who he was. You didn't know what resources his family commanded. You just saw a scared child and acted. Anyone would have—" "They didn't," Dante interrupted. "Dozens of people saw what was happening and looked away, too afraid to get involved, too concerned with their own safety. But you ran toward danger, not away from it." He crossed the room until he stood directly in front of her, close enough that Emma could see the gold flecks in his dark eyes, smell the expensive cologne that probably cost more than her monthly grocery budget. "That's who I want raising my son. Someone who makes the right choice when it matters, not because it benefits them, but because it's right." Emma's breath caught. "Mr. Moretti, Dante, I'm nobody. I clean buildings for a living. I wear second-hand clothes, and I'm raising my little sister in a one-bedroom apartment. I don't know anything about your world or how to be what you need. You know how to be brave. You know how to be selfless. You know how to love someone unconditionally. I see it in the way you talk about your sister." Dante's voice dropped lower. "That's everything Luca needs. Everything I need for him. What about what you need? The question escaped before Emma could stop it. Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, heat, something dangerous and compelling. What I need, he said carefully, is complicated. This whole situation is complicated. Yes, he agreed, which is why I'm proposing we approach it practically. Move into this house. Let Luca get to know you. Let you get to know him. Your sister, too, there's plenty of room, and she'd have access to the best schools in the city. You're asking me to uproot my entire life. I'm offering you the resources to give your sister opportunities she'd never have otherwise. A safe home, education, security? He paused. I'm asking you to give my son what I can't, a mother's love. Emma's mind raced. Lily could go to private school, have tutors, never worry about field trip fees or school supplies. She could have the childhood Emma had always wanted to give her but never could afford. And what would you expect from me? Emma asked carefully. Time with Luca, presence in his life. Eventually Dante's gaze held hers. Marriage. For appearances, for his stability. A proper family structure. A marriage of convenience. A practical arrangement between two people who want what's best for a 5-year-old boy. Emma walked to the window, watching Luca build something with blocks while the nanny read a magazine nearby. He looked so small, so innocent. She thought about the terror in his eyes at the mall, the way he'd called her his angel, the pure joy on his face when he'd chosen her last night. She thought about Lily, about the future she could give her little sister. She thought about the impossibility of this situation, about walking into a world she didn't understand with a man whose reputation made people whisper in fear. I need time to think, Emma said finally. Of course, Dante nodded. But Emma, time is something we don't always have in my world. Rivals know about last night, know that you were here, that Luca chose you. That makes you a target whether you accept my offer or not. Emma turned sharply. What? The moment you became important to my son, you became a piece on the board, Dante said, his voice carrying that quiet danger that made her shiver. I can protect you, protect your sister, but only if you let me. You're saying I'm in danger either way. I'm saying the world I live in doesn't respect boundaries or innocence. And like it or not, you're already involved. He crossed to his desk, writing something on a card. This is the address of a safe house. Take Lily there tonight. I'll have people watching your apartment building, but I'd prefer you somewhere more secure while you decide. Emma took the card with trembling fingers. And if I say no? If I decide this is too much? Dante's expression softened slightly. Then I'll still protect you. Both of you. Because my son cares about you, and what matters to him matters to me. But I'm hoping you'll say yes, Emma. I'm hoping you'll see that sometimes the bravest choice is accepting help when it's offered. A knock at the door interrupted them. Frank Romano entered, his expression grim. Boss, we have a situation. The Castellanos are making noise about last night. Victoria's father is calling it an insult. Handled, Dante said without looking away from Emma. Anything else? The shipment from Newark is delayed. Weather issues. Reroute through Philadelphia. Pay the extra costs. Now Dante did turn to his consigliere. Frank, this is Emma Chen. She'll be moving in by the end of the week. Make the necessary arrangements. Boss. Frank started, then stopped when Dante raised an eyebrow. Yes, sir. After Frank left, Emma stared at Dante. I haven't agreed to anything. You will, he said with absolute certainty. Because you're already thinking about Lily's future, about the schools and opportunities. Because you see Luca through that window and remember what it's like to need someone to care. Because underneath that very reasonable fear, you're curious about what this could be. He was right, and Emma hated that he was right. 1 week, she heard herself say. I'll try this for 1 week. If it doesn't work, if Lily isn't comfortable, or if I can't. 1 week, Dante agreed, extending his hand. But Emma, in my experience, once you're inside this world, leaving becomes complicated. His hand was warm, strong, and when their palms touched, Emma felt something electric pass between them. From the slight widening of his eyes, he felt it too. What was your wife like? Emma asked suddenly, needing to understand. Dante's expression shifted. Grief, memory, something tender breaking through his carefully controlled facade. Kind, patient. She saw good in everyone, even when they didn't deserve it. She made me want to be better than I was. I can't replace her. I'm not asking you to. Marina will always be Luca's mother in his heart. But he needs someone present, someone alive who can give him what she can't anymore. Dante's voice roughened. He needs you, Emma. God help us both, but I think I might too. Before Emma could respond to that devastating admission, the study door burst open and Luca ran in, the nanny chasing after him apologetically. Sorry, Mr. Moretti, he got away from me. It's fine. Mrs. Castelluccio, Dante said, but his attention was on his son. Luca launched himself at Emma, wrapping small arms around her waist. You came. Daddy said you would, but I wasn't sure, and I made you a picture and... Breathe, Piccolo, Dante said with amusement warming his voice. Let the angel lady breathe too. Emma looked down at the dark-haired boy clinging to her, felt his pure joy at her presence, and something in her chest cracked open. She'd spent 6 years raising Lily, putting every ounce of love into her little sister. She understood the fierce protectiveness of caring for a child. I'd love to see your picture, Emma said softly. Kneeling to his level, Luca's smile could have lit the entire city. The safe house was nothing like Emma expected. She'd imagined something cold and institutional, but instead found a beautifully furnished townhouse in a quiet neighborhood. 3 bedrooms, modern kitchen, and, most importantly, 2 silent bodyguards stationed outside. Lily had taken the news of their temporary relocation with surprising calm. Probably because Emma had explained it as helping a friend's son for a little while and conveniently left out the mafia boss part. Now, 3 days into their arrangement, Emma found herself in Dante's kitchen making breakfast while Luca chattered about his favorite cartoons. The normalcy of it felt surreal. Chopping fruit in a kitchen worth more than her yearly salary while the most dangerous man in the city read the newspaper at the head of the table. Emmy, can I have the strawberries? Luca asked politely. Of course, sweetheart. Emma slid the bowl toward him, catching Dante's gaze over the newspaper. He was watching her with an intensity that made her breath catch, as if memorizing every movement she made. You're staring, she said quietly when Luca became engrossed in his breakfast. You're beautiful when you smile, Dante replied with devastating simplicity, as if commenting on the weather rather than making Emma's heart race. Mr. Moretti, Dante, he corrected, setting down his newspaper. We've established this, Emma. Dante, she amended, very aware of his son at the table. This, what we're doing. We should establish boundaries. What kind of boundaries? The kind where you don't say things like that. Why not? It's true, and Luca should see that I appreciate you, that you're valued in this home. Emma busied herself with cleaning dishes that didn't need cleaning. The past 3 days had been a carefully choreographed dance. She'd wake up to find Dante already gone to meetings, spend the day with Luca and his nanny, then join them for dinner where Dante would appear, still wearing his suit, still carrying the weight of whatever he'd dealt with during the day. He never talked about his business in front of his son, never brought violence to the dinner table. In those hours, he was just a father, patient when Luca spilled milk, amused by childish jokes, gentle when putting his son to bed. But Emma saw the tension in his shoulders, the careful way he moved as if expecting attack, the phone calls he took in his study with the door locked. She saw the man behind the father, and that man was dangerous. Daddy, can Emma come to my school thing? Luca asked suddenly. Dante glanced at Emma. What school thing, Piccolo? Family Day, next Friday. All the kids bring their moms and dads, and we do art and stuff. Luca looked at Emma hopefully. Will you come? Be my mom for the day. Emma's throat tightened. Luca, I'm not, please. Those dark eyes, so like his father's, pleaded with pure innocence. Everyone else has a mom. Just for one day. She looked helplessly at Dante, who was watching the exchange with an unreadable expression. If Emma is comfortable with it, Dante said carefully, I think that would be wonderful. I'll come, Emma heard herself promise, unable to resist Luca's hopeful expression. Of course I'll come, Luca cheered, bouncing in his seat with joy. After breakfast, Mrs. Castelluccio arrived to take him to his morning play date, leaving Emma alone with Dante for the first time since she'd moved in. The silence stretched, heavy with unspoken things. "You don't have to do this," Dante said finally. "The school event? I know it's asking a lot. I said I would try this for a week. That includes showing up for him, even when it means pretending to be something you're not." Emma turned to face him fully. "What am I pretending to be? Someone who cares about a sweet little boy? Someone who wants to give him a good day? That's not pretending, Dante. That's just being human." He stood, crossing the kitchen with that predatory grace that never failed to make her pulse quicken. "You continue to surprise me, because I'm not terrified of you. Because you see past the title to something else, something I'm not sure exists anymore." He paused, standing close enough that Emma could feel the warmth radiating from him. "My world isn't kind, Emma. The things I've done, the decisions I've made, they're not forgivable. Everyone has darkness in their past. Not like mine," Dante said quietly, intensely. "I've destroyed families who crossed mine, made decisions that ended lives, built an empire on fear and control. The hands that held my son this morning have blood on them." Emma should have been terrified, should have run from this admission, this glimpse into the violence he carried. Instead, she found herself saying, "But they're gentle with him. With Luca. I've watched you, the way you adjust his tie, the way you listen when he talks about his day. Those same hands are capable of love." Dante's expression shifted, vulnerability breaking through his carefully maintained control. "Marina used to say something similar, that I was two different people, and she chose to love the father and husband instead of fearing the dawn." "Tell me about her," Emma said softly. "Not just the facts, but who she really was." They moved to the living room, settling on opposite ends of the leather sofa. For a moment, Dante said nothing, his gaze distant. "She was sunlight," he finally said. "Warm, bright, impossible not to be drawn to. Our marriage was arranged. Her father needed an alliance, mine wanted access to their territory. But Marina didn't let that define us. She chose to find joy in our situation." "Did you love her?" "Eventually, yes. Not the passionate, all-consuming kind you read about, but a steady, comfortable love built on respect and partnership. She knew what I was, what I did, and she accepted it as long as I kept that world away from our home." "What happened?" "You said the official report called it an accident, but..." Dante's jaw tightened. "A rival family sabotaged her car, made it look like brake failure. By the time I understood what had happened, they'd already been dealt with. Permanently. The weight of that word, permanently, settled between them." Emma understood its implication, the violence it represented. "Luca was 3, Dante continued. "Too young to really understand. I told him Mama went to heaven, that she loved him very much. But he knows something's missing. Every other kid at his school has a mother who picks them up, who volunteers at events, who kisses scraped knees. He has a nanny and a father who's too often absent dealing with business. You're trying to give him what he needs. I'm trying to fill a void I created by being who I am. If I were a normal man, a banker, a doctor, anything else, Marina would still be alive. My enemies wouldn't exist. Luca would have his real mother." Emma moved closer, driven by an impulse she didn't fully understand. "You can't change the past, but you can give him a good future. Can I?" Dante's gaze locked on hers, intense and searching. "Or am I just putting another woman I care about in danger?" The admission hung in the air. "Another woman I care about." Emma's breath caught. "I've only been here 3 days." 3 days, Dante agreed, "during which you've made my son smile more than I've seen in months. 3 days of coming home to find you in my kitchen, hearing your laugh echo through rooms that have been too quiet for too long. 3 days of watching you be exactly what we both need." He reached out, his fingers brushing her cheek with surprising gentleness. "This wasn't supposed to happen. You were supposed to be a practical solution, someone Luca chose that I could accept." "But Emma," his phone buzzed, shattering the moment. Dante pulled back, his expression hardening as he read the message. "I have to go," he said abruptly, standing. "Frank needs me downtown. Don't leave the house today. I'm doubling security until I know what this is about." "What's wrong?" Probably nothing. Probably just territorial posturing from a family that thinks last night's meeting was disrespectful. He paused at the door. But in my world, probably isn't good enough when it comes to protecting what matters. He left before Emma could respond, the front door closing with finality. Through the window, she watched him slide into the back of an SUV, flanked by bodyguards, and disappear into the city. The house felt different without him, larger, emptier, full of shadows that seemed to whisper warnings. Emma's phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her accept the call. "Ms. Chen," a woman's smooth voice said. "We haven't met, but I think it's time we talked. I'm Victoria Castellano, one of the women from the ballroom that night." Emma's grip tightened on the phone. "How did you get this number?" "My family has resources, just like Dante Moretti has resources. The difference is, we're willing to share information that might save your life." Emma's heart pounded as Victoria Castellano's voice purred through the phone, smooth and dangerous as silk wrapped around a blade. "I don't think we have anything to discuss," Emma said, moving away from the window where Dante's bodyguard stood watch. "Oh, but we do. You see, you've walked into a world you don't understand, playing a game where the rules aren't written down and the penalties are permanent." Victoria paused. "Meet me at Café Marcello in 1 hour. Come alone, or you'll never know what threats are circling that little sister of yours." The line went dead before Emma could respond. Her hands trembled as she lowered the phone. Everything in her screamed that this was a trap, that leaving the safety of Dante's home was exactly what she shouldn't do, but the mention of Lily sent ice through her veins. If there was even a chance her sister was in danger. Emma looked at the bodyguards outside. Dante had said not to leave, but he'd also said he couldn't always protect her, that his world didn't respect boundaries. She made her decision. 20 minutes later, Emma slipped out the back entrance while the guards were focused on the front. Her heart hammered with each step away from the house, but she kept moving, kept thinking about Lily at school, vulnerable and innocent. Café Marcello was in the financial district, all polished marble and business people conducting deals over espresso. Victoria sat at a corner table, impossibly elegant in a cream suit that probably cost more than Emma's entire wardrobe. "Ms. Chen." Victoria's smile was calculated, precise. "I'm glad you came. Please sit." Emma remained standing. "You have 5 minutes. Talk. Direct. I can see why Dante finds you refreshing." Victoria gestured to the chair. "But we'll discuss this like civilized women or not at all." Reluctantly, Emma sat, very aware that she was out of her depth. "I'm going to be frank with you," Victoria began, stirring her coffee with deliberate slowness. "That little display at the ballroom, it was humiliating. My family doesn't appreciate being dismissed in favor of hired help. I didn't ask to be chosen, no, but you accepted, didn't you? Moved into his home, playing mother to his son, warming his bed. I'm not warming anyone's bed." Emma interrupted sharply. Victoria's smile widened. "Not yet, but you will. Dante Moretti doesn't bring women into his home for purely practical reasons. My sources say he watches you like a starving man watches food." "It's only a matter of time." Emma's face heated, but she kept her voice steady. "What do you want, Miss Castellano?" "To offer you a way out before you're in too deep. Before you become collateral damage in wars you don't even know are being fought." Victoria leaned forward. "The Greco family is making moves against Moretti territory. They see his attention divided, focused on playing house with you instead of maintaining control. They're planning something that will use you and that child to get to him." Emma's blood ran cold. "You're lying." "Am I?" Victoria pulled out her phone, sliding it across the table. On the screen was a photo, grainy, taken from a distance but unmistakable. Lily, walking out of her school, backpack bouncing. A dark sedan parked across the street, windows tinted. "That was taken yesterday," Victoria said softly. "The car belongs to Antonio Greco's nephew. They're watching her, Emma, learning her patterns, waiting." Emma's hands shook as she pushed the phone back. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because despite what you might think, I'm not a monster. And because if something happens to you or your sister, it strengthens the Grecos and weakens Dante. My family may have been insulted, but we're still allies of the Morettis. We don't want to see them fall. What do you want me to do? Victoria's expression softened slightly, or maybe that was just another manipulation. Leave, take your sister and disappear. Dante will protect you financially, set you up somewhere safe. But get out of the crossfire before someone uses you to hurt him, or uses him to hurt you. Emma stood on trembling legs. I need to think. Don't think too long, Victoria warned. In this world, hesitation gets people hurt. Emma fled the cafe, her mind racing. She needed to get to Lily, needed to make sure her sister was safe. She pulled out her phone to call the school when a hand gripped her arm. Ms. Chen. Frank Romano's voice was hard as stone. You shouldn't be here. Two of Dante's men flanked Frank, their expressions grim. Emma's stomach dropped. I had to. Someone contacted me about my sister. I know. We've been tracking your phone since you left the house. Frank's jaw tightened. The boss is going to lose his mind when he finds out you slipped your protection. Is Lily safe? Your sister has had 2 of our people watching her school since you moved in. She's fine, but you? Frank shook his head. You just walked into neutral territory without backup, met with a woman whose family has every reason to want you gone, and gave anyone watching a perfect opportunity, as if summoning them with his words. The dark sedan from the photo rolled to a stop at the corner. Emma's heart seized. Get her to the car, Frank snapped. Now everything happened fast. Frank's men surrounded Emma, moving her toward their vehicle with practiced efficiency. The sedan's doors opened. 3 men emerged, hands reaching inside their jackets. Frank Romano, one of them called. We just want to talk to the girl. She's not interested in conversation, Frank replied, his hand moving to his own weapon. Walk away, Greco. This doesn't concern you. Everything concerning Moretti concerns us now. He's getting weak, distracted. Time someone reminded him what matters in this business. Emma found her voice. I'm not part of this. You became part of this the moment you walked into his house. The man, Greco, interrupted. You're leverage now, sweetheart. Question is whether Moretti values you enough to negotiate. Frank moved with surprising speed for a man his age, putting himself between Emma and the Greco soldiers. You threaten her, you threaten the Don. That's a war you don't want. Maybe we do. Maybe it's time for new leadership in this city. The tension crystallized, violence hanging in the air like a held breath. Emma's mind flashed to Luca, to his innocent smile, to Dante's warning that his world didn't respect boundaries. A phone rang. Greco's. He answered, listened, his expression shifting. Understood. He ended the call, studying Emma with cold assessment. Seems you're more valuable than we thought. The Don himself is 3 blocks away with enough firepower to start a small war. We'll continue this conversation another time. The Greco men retreated to their sedan and drove away, leaving Emma shaking in the middle of the street. Get her home, Frank ordered, and someone tell the boss she's secure before he tears this city apart. The ride back was silent, suffocating. Emma stared out the window, watching the city pass, understanding for the first time that Victoria had been right. She didn't belong in this world. She didn't understand the rules, the dangers, the way violence lurked beneath every interaction. The SUV pulled up to Dante's house just as another vehicle arrived. Dante emerged before it fully stopped, his face a mask of barely controlled fury. Inside, he said, his voice dangerously quiet. Now. Emma followed him into the house, into his study, where he closed the door with ominous control. For a long moment he said nothing, just stared at her with those dark eyes burning with emotion she couldn't name. You left, he finally said. I had to. You left. Each word was precisely enunciated, vibrating with restrained anger. After I explicitly told you to stay put, after I doubled security, after I made it clear that you were in danger, Victoria Castellano called. She showed me photos of Lily. I know what she showed you. Dante's control cracked, his voice rising. She played you, Emma. Manipulated you into doing exactly what she wanted, leaving safety, exposing yourself, creating an incident that makes me look weak to every family watching. Emma's own anger sparked. She showed me my sister being watched by criminals. What was I supposed to do? Trust me, Dante roared, then seemed to realize he was shouting. He turned away, running a hand through his hair. You were supposed to trust that I meant it when I said I'd protect you both. I don't know you well enough to trust you with her life. Then why are you here? Dante spun back to face her. Why did you agree to this arrangement if you don't trust me? Because your son looked at me with those hopeful eyes and I couldn't say no. Because I wanted to give Lily a better life. Because, Emma's voice broke, because I'm terrified every single day that I'm making the wrong choice, that I'm putting her in more danger, that I don't belong in your world. The silence that followed was deafening. Dante's expression shifted, fury giving way to something else, understanding perhaps, or recognition. He moved closer, each step deliberate until he stood directly in front of her. You're right, he said quietly. You don't belong in my world. You're too good for it, too pure. You see a scared child and you act. You sacrifice your own safety for your sister. You love without calculation or agenda. His hand came up, cupping her face with devastating gentleness. That's exactly why I need you, why Luca needs you, because you remind us what it means to be human instead of just survivors in an endless war. Emma's breath caught at his touch, at the raw honesty in his voice. But Emma, Dante continued, his thumb brushing her cheek, if you stay, you have to trust me. Not blindly, not without questions, but enough to believe that when I say I'll protect you, I mean it with every resource at my command. How can I trust someone who admits to destroying families? Because the families I destroyed would have destroyed mine first. Because in my world, mercy is weakness and hesitation gets people killed. Because everything I've done, every decision I've made since Luca was born, has been about keeping him safe. His voice roughened. And now that includes keeping you safe, both of you. The Greco family is being dealt with as we speak. They made a move against what's mine. That has consequences. Emma shivered at the cold promise in his words. What kind of consequences? The kind that ensure they never threaten you again, Dante said simply. Don't ask me for details you don't want to know. This is insane. This whole situation is insane. Yes, Dante agreed. But it's also real. And you're in it now, whether you walk away or not. At least here with me you have protection, resources, a chance to give Lily everything you couldn't before. And what do you get? Dante's expression shifted, heat replacing anger. What replacing fury? I get to come home to someone who makes this house feel alive again. I get to watch my son smile because you're teaching him to make pancakes. I get to pretend for a few hours each evening that I'm just a man instead of the Don. His hand slid from her face to her neck, thumb resting against her racing pulse. And I get to imagine what it would be like to kiss you, to hold you, to be with someone who chose me. Not my name, not my power, but the man underneath all of it. Emma's heart hammered. Dante, I know. Too fast, too complicated. You're here for Luca, not for me. He stepped back, breaking contact. But I'd be lying if I said that was enough anymore. Before Emma could respond, his phone buzzed. Dante glanced at it, his expression hardening. Frank handled the Greco situation. They won't be a problem going forward. He looked at Emma. Your sister gets picked up from school in an hour. I'm sending a different team. People even the Grecos won't mess with. And tomorrow, you and I are going to have a conversation about security protocols that you will actually follow. Dante, please, Emma, he said, and the exhaustion in his voice made him suddenly human. I can't do this if I'm constantly terrified that you'll put yourself in danger. I've lost one woman I cared about. I can't. He stopped, jaw tightening. Just promise me you'll stay safe. The vulnerability in his admission cracked something open in Emma's chest. This powerful, dangerous man was afraid. For her. Because of her. I promise, she whispered. Dante nodded, then left the study. His shoulders carrying the weight of an empire and the fear of losing what he was just beginning to want. Emma sank into the leather chair, her hands shaking with the aftermath of adrenaline and emotion. She'd been in Dante's world for less than a week, and already she'd been threatened, manipulated, and nearly caught in the crossfire of a war she didn't understand. The smart thing would be to leave. take Victoria's advice, accept Dante's protection from a distance, disappear into a normal life. But when she closed her eyes, she saw Luca's smile, heard Dante's admission that he imagined kissing her, felt the impossible pull toward a life that terrified and compelled her in equal measure. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. The Grecos were just the beginning. Others are watching. Be careful who you trust. Emma's blood ran cold. The game was bigger than she'd realized, and she was already a piece on the board. The next morning, Emma woke to find Dante already gone and a note on the kitchen counter. Security meeting downtown. Mrs. Castelluccio will be with Luca. We talk tonight. The day passed in strange normalcy. Lily came home from school chattering about her field trip, completely unaware of the 2 armed guards who'd followed her bus. Luca played in the garden while Emma helped with homework, the domestic routine a stark contrast to the danger lurking just outside these walls. But Emma couldn't stop thinking about Dante's words. About the heat in his eyes when he'd admitted wanting to kiss her. About the vulnerability beneath his carefully controlled exterior. She was playing a dangerous game, letting herself care about him. When Dante finally came home that evening, it was late, past 10, long after both children were asleep. Emma was in the kitchen, making tea to calm her racing thoughts. When she heard the front door close, he appeared in the doorway. His tie loosened, his suit jacket gone, exhaustion etched into every line of his face. Their eyes met across the kitchen, and something electric passed between them. "Bad day?" Emma asked softly. Dante's laugh was hollow. "You could say that. Spent 6 hours in meetings with families who think yesterday's incident makes me vulnerable. Had to remind them in very specific terms why crossing the Morettis is a permanent mistake." The weight of that word, permanent, settled between them again. "Did you handle the Greco situation? Antonio Greco has agreed to certain terms that ensure your safety and Lily's. His nephew, who was watching your sister, has been relocated to our operations in Nevada. Permanently." Emma set down her tea with trembling hands. "You're sending people away because of me." "I'm protecting what matters," Dante corrected, moving into the kitchen. "There's a difference." He reached for the bourbon on the top shelf, pouring 2 fingers into a crystal glass. His movements were controlled, but she could see the tension in his shoulders. The way his jaw tightened. "Dante," Emma said carefully, "what happened today that you're not telling me?" He downed half the bourbon before answering. "Victoria Castellano's father made a proposal, an alliance between our families, solidified by marriage between Victoria and me." Emma's heart seized. "What did you say?" Dante turned to face her fully, his dark eyes intense. "I said no. Told him my son had already chosen who he wanted, and I wasn't overruling that decision for political convenience." "You turned down an alliance because of a 5-year-old's choice?" "I turned it down because the woman my son chose is standing in my kitchen at midnight, making tea, looking beautiful and terrified and brave all at once. Because the thought of anyone but you in this house makes me irrationally angry." He set down his glass. "Because somewhere in the past week, this stopped being about Luca and started being about me wanting you here for entirely selfish reasons." Emma's breath caught. "Dante." He crossed the distance between them in 2 strides, stopping just close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. "Tell me I'm alone in this. Tell me you don't feel it too, and I'll step back. I'll keep our arrangement purely about Luca, but Emma," his voice roughened, "lie to me if you have to, because the truth might destroy my control." Emma's heart hammered. She should lie, should create distance, should remember that this man was dangerous, powerful, living in a world where people disappeared and families were handled. "I can't lie," she whispered. "Not about this." Dante's eyes darkened. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I'm terrified. I'm saying this is insane. I'm saying every rational part of me screams to run." Emma looked up at him, at the intensity in his gaze, at the barely leashed want she saw there. "But I'm also saying that when you touch me, I forget how to breathe. When you look at me like you are right now, I forget every reason this is impossible." "Emma." Dante breathed her name like a prayer, his hand coming up to cup her face. If I kiss you now, there's no going back. This becomes real, not just an arrangement for Luca, but something between us. I know. I'm not a good man. I've done things that would horrify you. My hands. Emma caught his hand, pressing it more firmly against her cheek. Your hands are gentle with your son. They're gentle with me. That's what I choose to see. Dante's control shattered. He pulled her against him, his mouth capturing hers with desperate intensity. Emma gasped at the contact, at the heat and hunger in his kiss, at the way his arms wrapped around her like he was afraid she'd disappear. She should have been afraid. Should have remembered the danger. Instead, she kissed him back with equal desperation, her fingers tangling in his hair, her body pressing against his. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dante rested his forehead against hers. This complicates everything, he murmured. I know. Every enemy I have will target you now. Use you to get to me. I know that too. And you're still here. Emma pulled back enough to meet his eyes. I'm still here. Dante's expression shifted, wonder mixing with want, hope battling with fear. I don't deserve you. Probably not, Emma agreed, managing a shaky smile. But your son chose me, remember? Who am I to argue with his excellent instincts? Dante's laugh was genuine this time, warm and real. He pulled her close again, this time just holding her, his face buried in her hair. Stay, he whispered. Not for Luca, not for the arrangement. Stay for this. For us. Emma's answer was to hold him tighter, to let herself believe, just for this moment, that love could exist even in the darkest corners of his world. The next week passed in a blur of carefully constructed normalcy, shadowed by ever-present danger. Emma attended Luca's school family day, smiling through the stares and whispers as other parents recognized who she was with. Dante stayed close, his hand resting possessively on her lower back, his message clear to anyone watching. She was his, and therefore untouchable. But threats still came. Anonymous messages on her phone, strange cars that appeared and disappeared, Frank's increasingly grim reports about families positioning themselves against the Morettis. They smelled blood in the water. Frank told Dante one evening when Emma was supposedly out of earshot. They think you're distracted, vulnerable. Then they're about to learn how wrong they are, Dante replied, his voice carrying that dangerous quiet that made Emma shiver. That night, he came to her room for the first time. They'd been careful, maintaining separate spaces, keeping their relationship hidden from Luca until they were certain it was real. I'm being pulled into something tomorrow, Dante said without preamble. A meeting with the heads of 3 families who think they can take advantage of the current situation. Emma set down her book. What kind of meeting? The kind where reputations are tested and positions are solidified. Where I have to remind everyone why the Moretti name still commands respect. He sat on the edge of her bed, looking suddenly tired. I need you to take Luca and Lily to the safe house tomorrow. Frank will drive you. Stay there until I come get you. Fear lanced through Emma. How long? Maybe a day. Maybe longer, depending on how things go. Dante's jaw tightened. I won't lie to you, Emma. This meeting could go badly. If it does, if something happens to me... Don't, Emma interrupted, moving to sit beside him. Don't talk like that. Someone has to, Dante said grimly. If something happens, Frank has instructions. Money for you and Lily, new identities if needed, protection until you can disappear. You'll be taken care of. I don't want to be taken care of. I want you to come back. Dante turned to look at her, his expression raw. I've been in this life for 15 years, survived things that should have ended me. But Emma, his voice broke slightly, I've never had as much to lose as I do right now. Emma cupped his face, forcing him to meet her eyes. Then come back to us, to Luca, to me, whatever it takes. Dante kissed her then, deep and desperate, pouring everything he couldn't say into the contact. When he finally pulled away, his eyes were dark with emotion. I love you, he said simply. I know it's too soon, too complicated, too everything, but if tomorrow goes wrong, I needed you to know. Emma's heart shattered and soared simultaneously. I love you too, Which is why you're going to survive whatever meeting this is and come home. Dante smiled, sad and hopeful and determined. Yes, ma'am. He left her room as dawn was breaking, his shoulders squared with purpose. Emma watched him go, fear clawing at her chest. By 8 a.m., she and the children were in Frank's car, driving toward the safe house. Luca chattered happily, thinking this was an adventure. Lily read quietly in the back seat. Emma stared out the window, her phone clutched in her hand, waiting for word. It came at noon, a brief text from Dante. Meeting started. Radio silence until it's done. I love you. The hours crawled past. Emma tried to keep the children entertained, tried not to check her phone every 5 minutes, tried not to imagine worst-case scenarios. At 6 p.m., Frank's phone rang. He answered, listened, his expression unreadable. Understood, he said, then ended the call. He looked at Emma. It's done. The boss is secure. We can head back. What happened? Frank's smile was grim. Let's just say the families that questioned Moretti's strength received a very clear reminder. The Don is on his way home. Relief made Emma dizzy. He's okay. He's fine. Tired but fine, and anxious to see you. They arrived back at the house to find Dante waiting in the driveway. He looked exhausted, his suit rumpled, his tie gone, but his eyes lit up when he saw Emma emerge from the car. Luca ran to him first, and Dante scooped up his son with visible relief. But his gaze stayed locked on Emma over the boy's shoulder. Later, after the children were asleep, he found her in the garden. It's over, Dante said without preamble. The families have accepted the current arrangement, acknowledged that the Morettis remain strong. What did you do? What I had to, Dante replied. Made it clear that anyone who threatened what was mine would face immediate and permanent consequences. Reminded them that I've survived in this world for a reason. Emma studied his face, seeing the weariness there, the weight he carried. And now I choose you, Dante said simply. Not just for Luca, not just for convenience. I choose this, us, knowing full well what it means. He pulled out a small box, opening it to reveal a simple but stunning diamond ring. Marry me, Emma. Not because my son chose you, but because I'm choosing you. Because I want to wake up next to you every morning. Because you make me believe I can be more than just the Don. Emma's eyes filled with tears. This is insane. Completely, Dante agreed. Your world is dangerous. Terrifying, he acknowledged. I'm still scared. So am I, Dante admitted. But I'd rather be scared with you than safe without you. Emma looked at the ring, at the man holding it, at the impossible choice that had somehow become inevitable. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I'll marry you. Dante's smile transformed his entire face. He slid the ring onto her finger, then pulled her into his arms, holding her like she was the most precious thing in his world, because she was. 3 months later, Emma stood in front of a mirror, adjusting her simple white dress. It wasn't the elaborate gown she might have worn in another life, but it was perfect, elegant, understated.
Yours. You look beautiful, Emmy, Lily said from her position on the bed.
Already dressed in her flower girl outfit. Your sister's right. Dante's voice came from the doorway. Though I'm pretty sure I'm not supposed to see you before the ceremony. Emma turned to find him watching her with that intense gaze that still made her breath catch. Since when do you follow rules? Fair point. Dante crossed the room, taking her hands in his. I just wanted a moment. Before everything changes. Everything already changed, Emma pointed out. 3 months ago when I said yes. 6 months ago when your son chose me. No, Dante shook his head. It changed the moment you ran toward danger instead of away from it. The moment you saw past the title to the man underneath. The moment I realized I could love again. Emma's eyes filled with tears. You're going to make me ruin my makeup. Then I'll just have to marry you with tear-streaked cheeks, Dante said softly. I've seen you at your worst, terrified, angry, vulnerable, and I love every version of you. A knock at the door interrupted them. Frank poked his head in, looking uncomfortable. Boss, guests are arriving. You need to get downstairs. Dante nodded, then turned back to Emma. I'll see you at the altar, future Mrs. Moretti. I'm keeping my name, Emma reminded him. I know, just testing to see if you'd changed your mind. His smile was warm, genuine. Emma Chen Moretti has a nice ring to it, though. After he left, Emma took a moment to steady herself. In 30 minutes, she'd be married to a man whose world terrified her. A man who commanded empires built in shadows, who made decisions she'd rather not know about, who carried violence like a second skin. But he was also the man who read bedtime stories in silly voices, who held her when nightmares woke her, who'd given Lily the childhood Emma never could have provided alone, who looked at her like she was the answer to prayers he'd stopped believing would be answered. Ready? Lily asked, taking her hand. Ready, Emma confirmed. The ceremony was small, immediate family and a few trusted associates. No elaborate productions, no society pageantry. Just honest promises exchanged between two people who'd found each other in the most impossible circumstances. Luca served as ring-bearer, his serious expression making him look like a miniature version of his father. When Dante took Emma's hands at the altar, the boy beamed with pure joy. We are gathered here, the officiant began, but Emma barely heard the words. She was too focused on Dante's eyes, on the emotion she saw there, love, hope, gratitude, and something deeper that had no name. When it came time for vows, Dante spoke first. Emma, 6 months ago, my son made a choice that changed our lives. He saw something in you that I was too jaded to recognize at first. Kindness, courage, the kind of pure goodness that I thought didn't exist in my world. You proved me wrong. Every day you prove me wrong. You've made our house a home. You've given Luca the mother he desperately needed. But more than that, you've given me hope. Hope that I can be more than the title I carry. Hope that love can exist even in the darkest corners. Hope that tomorrow might be better than yesterday. His voice roughened. I promise to protect you, to cherish you, to be worthy of the choice you made when you said yes. I promise to be the man you see when you look at me, not perfect but trying, always trying. Emma's tears flowed freely now. Dante, you gave me an impossible choice and somehow made me believe it was the only choice that made sense. You've given Lily opportunities I could never have provided. You've shown me that strength can be gentle, that power can be used to protect instead of harm, that love can grow even in the most unlikely soil. I'm still terrified of your world, still learning the rules of a game I never intended to play. But I'm not afraid of you. I'm not afraid of us. I promise to stand beside you, to trust you, to love both the father and the Don, because they're both parts of the man I choose every single day. The officiant pronounced them married, and Dante kissed her with all the restrained passion of a man who'd finally found his way home. The reception was held in the garden, simple and perfect. Emma watched Dante dance with Luca, the serious crime lord transformed into a playful father, and felt her heart swell. You did good, Ms. Chen. Frank approached with 2 glasses of champagne. The boss is happier than I've seen him in years, maybe ever. Call me Emma, Frank. We're family now. Frank's weathered face softened. That we are. And for what it's worth, I'm glad. The boy needed this. Needed you. Just the boy. Frank's smile was knowing. The boss needed it too. He just didn't realize how much until you appeared. As the evening wore on, Emma found herself pulled aside by several family members, not threats this time, but genuine welcomes. The world Dante inhabited was slowly opening its arms to her. Later, when the guests had departed and the children were asleep, Dante found Emma on the balcony overlooking the garden where they'd been married. Regrets? He asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. About marrying you? No. Emma leaned into his embrace. About the 3 pieces of cake I ate? Maybe. Dante's laugh rumbled through his chest. You earned them. It's not every day you marry into organized crime. Still weird hearing you say that so casually. Would you prefer I pretend to be something else? Emma turned in his arms to face him. No, I appreciate the honesty even when it terrifies me. That's the deal, right? You're honest with me, I'm honest with you, and we figure out the rest as we go. Best deal I ever made, Dante murmured, brushing a kiss across her forehead. Though technically Luca made it for us. Remind me to thank him for his excellent matchmaking skills. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the stars appear above the city Dante controlled from the shadows. I have something for you, Dante said eventually, pulling a small envelope from his jacket pocket. Wedding gift. Emma opened it to find legal documents. What is this? The deed to a building downtown, currently vacant. I thought maybe you'd want to start that community center you mentioned? The one where kids from neighborhoods like where you grew up can have safe spaces, tutoring, opportunities. Emma's throat tightened. Dante, I can't change what I am or undo what I've done, he said quietly. But I can use the resources I've built to do something good. Something that matters to you. Our money can fund programs, provide jobs, make a real difference. You're trying to balance the scales. I'm trying to be worthy of you, Dante corrected. I'll never be perfect, Emma. My business will always exist in gray areas. But if I can use that power to create something positive, to honor the woman who chose to love me anyway, then maybe it means something. Emma kissed him then, pouring all her love and hope and faith into the contact. When they broke apart, she whispered, "It means everything." The months that followed were an education in balancing two worlds. Emma learned the subtle signals that meant Dante was dealing with business she didn't want details about. He learned when to push for honesty and when to simply hold her through the nightmares. Luca flourished with both parents present. His teachers remarked on his improved confidence, his happiness. Lily thrived in her new school, making friends and discovering talents they'd never been able to nurture before. And Emma discovered that love could exist alongside fear. That strength came in forms she'd never imagined, and that home wasn't a place but the people you chose to protect. 6 months into their marriage, Emma stood in the community center. Dante had gifted her, watching children from all backgrounds learn, play, and dream. The building hummed with life. Tutoring sessions in one room, art classes in another, a safe space where neighborhood kids could just be kids. Mrs. Moretti, one of the volunteers, approached. "We have 3 more families requesting enrollment. The waiting list is getting long." Emma smiled at the title she still wasn't quite used to. "I'll talk to my husband about expanding the program." The volunteer's eyes widened slightly. Everyone in the neighborhood knew who Dante Moretti was, what his name meant. But they also saw what he provided: safety, opportunities, resources without conditions. The Don's reputation was slowly shifting from feared to respected. That evening, Emma returned home to organized chaos. Luca was teaching Lily a card game. At the kitchen table while Dante attempted to cook dinner, his sleeves rolled up, looking adorably out of his element. "Should I be worried?" Emma asked from the doorway. Dante looked up, his face lighting with that smile reserved only for her. "Probably. I'm not sure pasta sauce is supposed to be this color." "It's supposed to be red, Daddy," Luca called helpfully. "That's like purple." "Artistic interpretation," Dante defended, but he was already reaching for his phone. "I'm ordering takeout." Emma crossed the kitchen, wrapping her arms around his waist from behind. "I love you for trying. I love you for saving me from my own cooking," Dante replied, turning to kiss her properly. "Gross," Luca and Lily chorused together, giggling. This was their life now, stolen moments of normalcy punctuated by the reality of Dante's world. Security remained tight, threats still emerged occasionally. But they'd found a rhythm, a way to exist between two realities. Later, after dinner and bedtime stories, Emma found Dante in his study reviewing documents. She recognized the tension in his shoulders, the careful way he held himself. "Bad news?" she asked softly. Dante set down the papers, pulling her onto his lap. "Nothing I can't handle. Just territory disputes that need managing." "You mean the kind where people get relocated permanently?" "Sometimes," Dante admitted. "But also the kind where smart negotiation prevents escalation. I'm trying to be the man you see, Emma. That means choosing diplomacy over force when possible." Emma traced the scar above his eyebrow, the visible reminder of his past. "I know what you are, Dante. All of it. The dangerous parts and the gentle parts. I chose you, knowing both existed. Even when the dangerous parts keep you up at night. Even then." Emma met his eyes. "Because the gentle parts make it worth it. Because you're teaching our son that strength includes protecting the vulnerable. Because you're using your power to build something good alongside the empire you inherited." Dante's expression softened. "Our son. You called him our son." "He is," Emma said simply. "Biology doesn't make a parent. Love does. And I love him like he's mine. He loves you too. Told me yesterday that he barely remembers a time when you weren't here." Dante's voice roughened. "You've given him something I never could alone, stability wrapped in affection. He feels safe enough to just be a kid." "That's what kids deserve," Emma replied. "Safety to grow, room to make mistakes, unconditional love. Is it wrong that sometimes I wish I could give you a simpler life? One where bodyguards aren't necessary and threats don't lurk in shadows?" Emma cupped his face, forcing him to meet her gaze. "I don't want a simpler life with someone else. I want this complicated, sometimes terrifying, absolutely real life with you." Dante kissed her then, deep and thorough, conveying everything words couldn't capture. When they broke apart, he whispered, "I don't deserve you." Lucky for you, love isn't about deserving. It's about choosing, and I choose you, every single day. A year into their marriage, Emma discovered she was pregnant. The news terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. Bringing a child into Dante's world felt like the ultimate act of faith. "Are you happy?" she asked Dante after telling him, trying to read his carefully controlled expression. His answer was to pull her into his arms, holding her like she was the most precious thing in existence. "Terrified," he admitted against her hair. "But yes, God yes, Emma, happy doesn't begin to cover it." Luca's reaction was pure joy. "I'm gonna be a big brother, like really big, not just older. You'll be the best big brother," Emma assured him, watching him dance around the living room with Lily. The pregnancy progressed smoothly, though Dante's protectiveness reached new heights. Security doubled. His anxiety was palpable whenever Emma left the house. "I can't lose you," he admitted one night, his hand resting on her growing belly. "I survived losing Marina, but Emma, losing you would destroy me." "You're not going to lose me," Emma promised, covering his hand with hers. "I'm stronger than I look, and I have the best protection in the city." "The best protection in the world," Dante corrected. "I've called in favors from every family allied with us. No one touches you, no one even looks at you wrong." Their daughter was born on a spring morning, healthy and perfect. Dante held her with the same gentle reverence he'd shown Luca, tears streaming down his face unashamedly. "She has your eyes," he whispered to Emma. "And your stubbornness, I predict," Emma replied. Exhausted but happy, they named her Marina Rose, honoring Luca's mother while giving their daughter her own identity. It felt right, bridging past and present, acknowledging that love could build on the foundations of love lost. Watching Dante with both children, seeing the fierce protectiveness tempered with gentleness, Emma understood that he'd always be both men, the Don who commanded empires and the father who read bedtime stories. And she loved both versions completely. 2 years after their wedding, Emma stood in the same ballroom where Luca had first chosen her. But tonight was different. Tonight was a celebration of the community center's expansion, funded by the Moretti family but open to everyone. Politicians mingled with neighborhood families. Rival organizations sent representatives, acknowledging the neutral ground the center represented. It was a testament to how far they'd come, how Dante's reputation had evolved from feared to respected to admired. "You did this," Dante murmured, appearing at Emma's side. "Turned my resources into something that actually helps people." "We did this," Emma corrected. "Your power, my vision, our commitment to making things better." Frank approached with his usual measured stride. "Boss, the Castellano family just donated a significant sum to the scholarship fund." Victoria herself delivered the check. Emma spotted Victoria across the room, elegant as ever. Their eyes met, and something passed between them. Not friendship exactly, but mutual respect. Victoria nodded slightly, acknowledging the path not taken and the unexpected outcome. "The world keeps changing," Dante observed. "A few years ago, I couldn't have imagined this, using family resources for community programs, building alliances through charity instead of fear. Do you miss the old way?" Emma asked quietly. Dante turned to face her fully, his expression sincere. "I miss the simplicity of it sometimes. Fear is easier than earning respect. Control is simpler than cooperation. But Emma," he took her hand, "this version of me, the one you helped create. He sleeps better at night. He can look his children in the eye without shame. He has a future that's about building instead of just maintaining. You always had that potential. I just helped you see it." "You loved me into becoming it," Dante corrected. "Every day you choose to see the best in me. Eventually I had to try to become that person." As the evening progressed, Emma watched their family interact with the community. Luca, now 8, played with children from every background, unburdened by the weight of his father's reputation. Lily, 13 and thriving, volunteered at the center every weekend. Little Marina toddled between guests, charming everyone with her fearless smile. This was their empire now, built not on fear but on hope. Not on violence but on opportunity. Not on taking but on giving back. Later, standing on the same balcony where they'd shared their first real kiss, Dante pulled Emma close. "Do you remember that night?" he asked. "When Victoria called and you left the house against my orders?" "How could I forget?" "You were furious." "Terrified," Dante corrected. "Absolutely terrified that I'd lose you before I'd even had the chance to love you properly. That night changed everything. Made me realize that protecting you meant trusting you, not controlling you." Emma leaned into his embrace, watching the city lights twinkle below. "We've come a long way from that scared cleaning lady and the dangerous Don. We've become partners," Dante said simply. "In everything. You handle the community programs, I handle the business that funds them. You teach our children compassion, I teach them strength. Together we're building something that matters. Do you ever regret it? Choosing this path instead of the traditional one?" Dante turned her in his arms, his dark eyes intense with emotion. "Emma, you saved my life that day in the mall, even if you didn't know it. Not Luca's life, mine. You reminded me that there was more to existence than survival and power plays. That there was softness and kindness and love worth fighting for." His voice roughened. "Every choice I've made since has been about being worthy of that gift." "So no, I don't regret a single moment." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "You've given me everything I never knew to dream of. Safety for Lily, a family for myself, purpose beyond just surviving day to day. You've given me redemption," Dante replied, "a chance to be more than the sum of my mistakes. You've shown me that even hands that have dealt with darkness can build something bright." They stood together in comfortable silence, two people from impossible worlds who'd found a way to create their own reality. "Dante," Emma said eventually, "thank you. For what? For letting your son choose me. For seeing past the cleaning lady to the person underneath. For loving me despite and because of everything we are." Dante's smile was soft, genuine, full of the warmth he showed only to her. "Thank you for running toward danger instead of away. For choosing us when every rational instinct said to run. For teaching me that the bravest thing isn't wielding power, it's opening your heart despite the risk." Inside, they could hear their children laughing, safe and happy and loved. Outside, the city sprawled, full of danger and opportunity, darkness and light, all the complexities they navigated together. Emma Chen had walked into Dante Moretti's world expecting nothing and found everything. A family, a purpose, a love that defied every odd and survived every threat. She'd been chosen by a 5-year-old boy with excellent instincts. She'd chosen to stay for the man who loved her despite his broken edges, and together they'd built an empire not of fear but of hope, proving that even in the darkest corners, love could not only survive but thrive. As Dante kissed her under the stars, Emma thought about that terrified moment in the mall when she'd grabbed a scared child's hand. One choice, one moment of courage, and it had led to this. A life she never could have imagined, but now couldn't imagine living without. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is say yes when everything tells you to run. Sometimes love finds you in the most impossible circumstances, and sometimes the most dangerous man in the city becomes the safest place to call home. This was their story, messy and complicated and absolutely real. The cleaning lady and the crime lord, the angel and the don. The impossible love that became inevitable, and they lived it together, one complicated, beautiful day at a time. The end.